What's going on there, guys? It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this beautiful Wednesday night, August 31st, 2022. It's about 9:36 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 1.4 earthquake, somewhat deep as well, up into the Alaska area. We have seen quite a bit of activity ramping up here along the west coast and also inland into the North American plate, where we've seen some activity ramping up around the Yellowstone area. Let's go ahead and check out the activity real quick here at Yellowstone National Park. About an hour or so ago, a couple hours ago, we've seen a 3.4 kick up and a 2.6. This is part of an ongoing swarm that is entering into day number 7. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here from Yellowstone far as the seismograph stations go. And this 3-pointer definitely ramped up across the area. Now they have it centered in an area that is basically distant from our swarming areas. Let me see if I can bring this up here. The previous swarm, let me bring up the last week, was kind of up north here, outside of West Yellowstone, about to the northeast here a little bit, around the I think Maple Creek area. We've seen a couple hundred earthquakes. They only have listed here about 183, but there's probably a good 500-600 earthquakes or so at Yellowstone National Park that has been in this ongoing swarm that's coming into day number 7 now. But a look here at real quick at the current 24-hour map shows the activity, including that 3-pointer followed up by, it looks like, a 2.7. Again, just a couple hours ago. This is a pretty good shaker. It did pick up on the live stream there on the Yellowstone graph that we have running up on the Earthquake 3D live stream pretty nicely. But as you can see, over the past 24 hours, definitely a lot more than 2 or 3 earthquakes. And if we look at all of these little spikes here listed up on the map, on the graph, that's the swarm that's continuing. And those are all microquakes. And regardless if they're shown up on the USGS map or not, they are earthquakes. If we look at the previous day, yesterday, see about the same. And then a couple days before that, things were just, pretty much about the same deal. We've been seeing these earthquakes pop off here for almost a week now at Yellowstone National Park. And again, this latest area kind of outside of the swarming area that we've been watching. So I'm curious to see if we're going to migrate into a different swarm down here around the Red Mountains area. Looks like outside of the Lewis Lake region, the Pitchstone Plateau. Notice that the USGS mentions this earthquake as a 3.4, 59 kilometers east-northeast of Warm River, Idaho. They don't mention anything about Yellowstone on these earthquakes, which is a little on the odd side because it's well into Wyoming and definitely within the Yellowstone area. Now the epicenter here, it looks like the epicenter shows, let's go back to the current date, which is right now. And looks like the epicenter is going to be, as noted here, let me get a little bit better view here. Definitely southwest of the Yellowstone region there. Stand by for just a second. Or the Yellowstone, Lake Yellowstone area. So I'm guessing probably right about in this region here is where the epicenter is going to be for these the 3-pointer and the 2.7. And it looks like there is possibly a start of a separate swarm kicking off here. Notice these spikes kicking up on the Yellowstone seismograph stations here. So going to watch that pretty closely and see if that plays out to a another swarm kicking up in the area. And this would be definitely a separate swarm in the region down here, which not too common. Those are the ones we kind of want to watch, see if this, if the entire area starts to swarm all over the place, and what's going on there. Might want to take a look into some other GPS type stuff, see if we got any uplift and whatnot going on. But we just checked that a couple days ago, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of uplift in recent days. All right, so earthquake activity continuing there at Yellowstone National Park in a separate swarming across the Pacific Northwest. I got a little activity outside of Mount Rainier. We'll check out the seismograph stations around that volcano here in just a second once we check the PNSN network tremor. Up here into the Cascadia subduction zone, we did see a 3.3 kickoff earlier this evening into the Cascadia subduction zone at about 26 kilometers deep at the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust area. We have been noticing a little bit of increase in activity here at the southern end, along with some tremor activity. So we'll check out the tremor activity here in just a little bit, but things definitely ramping up here along the Cascadia. 2.0 near Lacombe, Oregon at 12 kilometers deep. It is kind of at the definitely into the Cascades here, kind of around the western slopes of the Cascades and the mountain range up here in Oregon. One earthquake outside of Bend, way outside of Bend, just got a 1.6, Oregon. That's it. Doesn't give any specific area. It looks like it's around the Maury Mountains area at 10 kilometers there for that 1.6. Again, noted the activity up there around the Northern California area. That's all associated with the Cascadia subduction zone. Northern California sits right on top of that. Not a whole lot of activity continuing still down throughout the eastern Sierra Nevada or the central part of California. And for that matter, the entire southern portion of the state here looks pretty quiet. We got one earthquake here, 1.2 in East LA. 1.2 in East LA at 13 kilometers. Woohoo! Aside from that, just some very typical microquake activity around the state. No major swarming to report. It appears as though right now you can pretty much draw a line up here across this area, right around probably about the Redding area, west and eastward, northward, is where all of our excitement's kind of kicking off right now. Right around the time frame that we've seen that 3.3 strike in Northern California, we did see a 2.3 near Dell, Arkansas at 7.2 kilometers. Now this area is the New Madrid seismic zone. Okay, and this earthquake struck within that area, within that fault region where the main New Madrid seismic area is at. So it's been a little quiet in this region far as earthquake activity goes. This is not a big earthquake by any means. It's a 2.3, but could be a sign of some increasing pressure out here along this region of the state's eastern part of the country. Right now looks pretty quiet. We are getting a little swarm of activity out here around the Guatemala region, including a 4.6 within the last hour, along with quite a few 4s. And USGS, they're issuing a 3.7 out there. You know, this is a 4.0 and above international map, so I don't get it. If you're going to show a 3.7 for El Salvador, why not show a 3.7 for Japan or something, you know? Come on, guys. USGS, get on with the ball. I would love to see the USGS show at least 2.5, maybe 3.0 and above internationally. So if we pressure them enough, they may get into that program. So I'll keep pressuring them here on the channel. But some earthquake activity definitely ramping up here within the last couple hours into the Middle America Trench. It's kind of an overall seismic increase in activity along the North American plate, the Cocos Plate area, which is the subduction zone here along this region here. Definitely showing some activity. Around the Puerto Rico area, got a couple earthquakes up here around the Puerto Rico Trench, which sits right up here. That's capable of producing a mega quake one day. And that won't be good news for anyone that lives in this area, let me tell you. When it's going to happen, who knows? There's not a whole lot of info on it, but the stress and the accumulated slip rate in this region is quite high, and it's just a matter of time before these folks here experience something that could be unlike we've ever seen in terms of earthquake activity and tsunami movement. Right now, 3.7 within the last hour. Outside of the U.S. Virgin Islands region at 23 kilometers. Pretty close, though, to the Puerto Rico Trench. Aside from that, moving down south, South America region, we got a little earthquake down here that happened earlier this afternoon, a 4.1 in the Chile area. And South Sandwich Islands area, way down south, is starting to move a little bit. This one kicking up here this afternoon, a 4.7 at 10 kilometers. Been a while since we've seen a little bit of adjustment down there, but things kind of moving. Into the big island of Hawaii. Looks like most of the activity right now around Pahala. Some activity around Kilauea Volcano. And outside of Mauna Kea, got a 1.8 earthquake at 28.1 kilometers there. So overall, we got, there's if you look at Hawaii on a hotspot, oceanic hotspot deal, as far as volcanic activity goes, it only makes sense for new islands to form further here to the southeast. All these chains of island, volcanic islands here, are a much older movement. You can actually follow the hotspot here all the way up here into the Aleutian Trench, which is pretty cool. Looks like it comes into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench and the Aleutian Trench. All this activity was over the hotspot at one time, where Hawaii is right now. This activity has been eroded over time through weather. But, looking into the future here, a couple million years, we're going to see that chain of islands here kind of continue in that fashion there with the movement of the Pacific Plate. Kind of a neat little thought. But, yeah, activity still continuing on the southeast area of Pahala. I don't think I'll be alive way back in the future. That's a long time from now. Tokyo, what do we got outside of Tokyo and Japan region? We're noticing a little bit of seismic increase activity in the East China Sea, and also these earthquakes up here into the Japan Trench. Some of those somewhat deep at about 62 kilometers. But overall, a little spotty activity throughout the region here. One earthquake, this one coming in earlier this afternoon time frame in the Fiji Islands area. This one's super shallow though. Just southwest of Fiji at about 10 kilometers. Kermadec Trench and the Tonga Trench all look pretty quiet now. Not a whole lot of deep activity occurring right now, but we have seen some over the past week or so. And most of the movement here throughout the western portion of the area is all older movement from late last night and early this morning. We did have a recent, this is kind of not super recent, but earlier this afternoon, in the South Africa area, 3.6 at 5 kilometers. I think kind of rifting in there into that rift zone. Eventually, there's a couple different areas we need to watch here for plate tectonics. So let's go ahead and check out the tremor map tonight along the Cascadia. Ooh, man, I already seen that before I can even swallow to pronounce this. 429 epicenters of tremor. It's a pretty big uptick, and it's a lot of it is up here in the Vancouver Island ranges and also Northern California, but not as condensed in the tremor department. Most of it looks like it's up there around the Vancouver Island ranges tonight. 429 epicenters of tremor, and this has kind of been an ongoing event here for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, of some low-grade tremor activity. Notice up here on the let's go over here to the month map. We've been seeing a little bit of activity throughout the August time frame here, a little up and down of activity, although there's not a whole lot of large scale activity taking place. But we're starting to notice that uptrend here along the if you notice this plus symbol here, we're starting to get that upward trend of activity here, and I've been noticing these periods of tremor activity get much closer together in terms of activity in the past years. So this could be a sign to watch potentially here for the Cascadia subduction zone. Increased activity along the Cascadia can only mean one thing, that the likelihood of a Cascadia megathrust earthquake here for the folks in the Pacific Northwest increases. So watching that pretty closely. I'm kind of watching this trend. I'm studying it. I'm documenting all these tremors, and who knows, we might see this thing pop far as the great 9.0 Cascadia earthquake goes in the near future with kind of with this ongoing tremor activity. volcanic seismicity map here around Mount Rainier. This is the area up there that showed a little bit of seismic increase today. A couple small microquakes. Let's see if we can't get a readable seismograph station here. This one looks pretty good. Not for certain of what this stuff is. I'm not for certain if this is earthquake activity or not. It doesn't look like it. Let's go to the previous area, previous time. It's hard to tell with this interference. I don't know if it's rock falls or what. There's no major seismic unrest, but there might be a little earthquake here. Most of the time when we look for earthquakes, they're going to be very distinct, sudden jolts, not these little sparkles and these little drawn out areas. Those could be rock falls. Who knows? Who knows within that area? Not for sure how much snow melt is up there, but it could be some rock falls going on around the Mount Rainier area. Hello, mosquito. He just landed on my computer. All right. Let's go over to the space weather department here real quick at the solarham.net website, and notice we're starting to trend down a little bit in terms of the major activity we've seen with a massive amount of M flares over the last week or so. Definitely seen probably around 20, upwards of 20 or more M flares being produced throughout that week time frame. But right now, we're kind of entering into a little bit of quiet spell here with the solar weather activity as far as X-ray flux goes. And this is the 3-day recorded data. There's the last large M duration flare that the Sunspot 3088 produced with a large, massive CME that I think is going to hit Venus. I'm not for sure when it's going to happen, but Venus, the planet Venus, was in that direction, and well, that's going to probably hit Venus pretty nicely. But far as the Earth goes, solar activity is kind of dying down now for the solar flare activity. I think the regions and some activity that we do need to watch is number 20. That's not a sunspot, but that is a coronal hole that is pouring out some high wind stream here, solar wind stream from the sun, and that's Earth directed, pretty much a bullseye effect here, and that should enhance the activity here in the coming days. I know it's kind of rotating around slowly, but that one's a pretty deep one, and that will be definitely adjusting the 3-day geomagnetic forecast here in the coming week or so. Again, the only sunspot of worry or issue right now is 3089, which kind of harbors a beta gamma delta class. So it actually kind of looks like it's modified a little bit since this earlier afternoon update, getting in on a little bit of complex issues here. It's growing. When we see these classes go into beta gamma delta class, that's a good sign to watch for some possible flaring. We're looking at a 80% chance of a C flare, M flare at 30% chance, and an X flare still remains at about 5% chance. So this thing is growing, looks like, and kind of rapidly developing. Earlier this morning or this afternoon time frame, kind of looked like things were kind of mellowing out, getting a little bit of decaying of this area, but we got a little bit of development here, intermixing with the magnetic fields. So we'll watch that. It is Earth facing right now, but it is, if you notice, starting to drift over here to the southwestern portion of the limb, away from Earth. There is a couple, at least one sunspot over here on the very, very far eastern limb. You can kind of see that intermixing there. That will be rotating into view, and we should see that thing get numbered if it continues to develop, that is, as it faces the Earth. So we'll watch this pretty closely, folks. Definitely keep an eye on things. Right now, the current data pretty... let's go over here to the real-time solar wind area, and the speed's kind of dwindling there below the 600 km range. Not a whole lot going on with the density of the protons, and everything looks pretty stable for as the BT-BZ component of the interplanetary magnetic field for now. And we'll see what happens once we get that coronal hole facing us in the coming days. All right, guys, let's see what else we got here for Earthquakes Canada map. We'll go ahead and check it up here to the north. Not a whole lot going on. Still seeing a little bit of activity outside of the Alberta region. It looks like a couple small microquakes in a little swarming fashion there outside of Fox Creek, and outside of the Cascadia subduction zone. Not a whole lot going on here at the northern end. It looks like one earthquake here within the last day or so, off the coast of the Port Alice area, BC region, but into the this would be the Explorer plate right here. Separation between the Juan de Fuca is right about here, and you can kind of see that. This is a little, very, very small microquake, or a very small microplate. Explorer, Juan de Fuca, and the Gorda plate down south there, off the coast of Northern California and the Southern Oregon region. All right, guys, I think that's about it. Have a good night out there, and live stream, of course, is up and running. Got a 2.4. Stand by for just a second. I always look at that globe and see these new earthquakes, and I kind of want to go check this out real quick. See where this 2.4 is striking down in the Southern California area. Actually, it looks like it's well south here into the Mexico region. 18 kilometers for that earthquake. Not for sure the fault system's down here, but it kind of does play a part on overall activity as far as what's going on out here along the western portion of the states. But again, watch Yellowstone National Park at with those trees kicking off there in a separate swarming fashion in a different area of the park. We could see things really ramp up here. That earthquake, 3.2 and a 2.7 showed up pretty nicely across all the seismograph stations there in the park. So things definitely kind of ramping up there around Yellowstone, and we'll definitely monitor that and keep folks updated. All right, guys, have a good night. Again, stay safe out there, and we'll chat you guys sometime tomorrow. Peace out, everyone.